What's up guys, Hunt and May here, back with another prediction video, this time for UFC 316, Dvalishvili versus O'Malley. Now let's get straight away to the first fight on this card, which is, to me, probably one of my favourites on the main card, simply because it's got the meme of Kevin Holland in it, and he's fighting Vicente Luque, who just can't have a boring fight. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I feel like in Kevin Holland's last fight, he faced someone in Gunnar Nelson who wasn't really up to have an entertaining fight and kind of like crotch grabbed at certain points and nut hugged. So it'll be a really interesting one, this, because both of these guys like kind of fight to, like, up to the level of the competition, and I feel like both of them are quite even at this point in their careers. Kevin Holland against Gunnar, to me, just looked a bit gun shy. No pun intended. But he did. He could have got a finish there. Like, if you remember, like, when he knocked down Gunnar, he had, like, the finish on a plate for him, and he just seemed to, like, give up on it. And I think if he does that in this fight, he's going to get killed, basically. It's a kill or be killed kind of fight, in my opinion. Like, both guys can rock each other. Both guys can knock each other out. I think if I was to pick who's going to win this, I'd have to go with Kevin Holland, simply due to the fact that even though Luque is just coming off a first round finish against Themba Gorimbo, I think Themba Gorimbo was vastly overhyped, unproven, and I think just because the Rock thing, you know what I mean? So I think this fight's really going to show that Luque still isn't that guy he used to be. I think Kevin Holland's just going to eke it out. Probably, I can, for some reason, see him getting an early knockdown, and then maybe Luque comes back at him, and then I can see him like just getting him against the fence, grabbing the tie clinch and just kneeing him to the body repeatedly and just really hurting him. And then I can see him just getting him down and using his long legs to maybe wrap something up, like I could even see a leg lock being locked up by Kevin Holland, because he's the kind of guy who's a bit retarded and probably would go for something like that, just cost. And I don't know, I can see it just being one of those fights where Kevin Holland just causes more damage, and I don't think there's going to be a finish, because I think Luque is probably too tough. But I think it's going to be a really entertaining fight, and I'm picking Kevin Holland by decision. I think he's actually going to get a 10-8 round probably in the first, and then Luque is going to show his grit and he's going to come back into it, but he's just going to get outpointed basically by the longer, faster, and also younger guy. So I'm going with Kevin Holland, and I'm looking forward to it. Good main card opener. Moving on, fight number 2 on the main card, Mario Batista versus Patchy Mix. Now, Patchy Mix, probably the most exciting prospect Bellator have had in recent years. Still only 31 years old, so he's not an old guy coming from Bellator like Michael Chandler or like Patricio Pitbull. You know, he's still in his prime. He looked amazing in his Rufus Stotts fight when he won with that knee. Everyone remembers that. You know, that was one of them that went viral over Twitter. You know, no one watched the card at the time, but he won the interim belt at that time. In that fight, he got he got a knee to the dome as Stott was coming in, the All-American, you know, NCAA wrestler, you know, typical story, Ben Askren style, knee KO. And he's also had other great performances. One years ago against Tony Gravely, who at the time was actually a top prospect. He got a win against him over 5 rounds. So he was even fighting in 5-round title fights back then. And he's fighting Mario Batista, who's never been 5 rounds, you know, never even been a champion. And Mario Batista did look like he was just playing it safe in that Aldo fight when everyone turned against him. I can really see just the superior finishing potential being the reason that Patchy wins this, because he actually gets finishes on the ground. He doesn't just hug people. He's got rear naked choke finishes. He's got guillotine finishes. He's even got triangle finishes on his record. I can't pick someone like Mario Batista, who's fighting old man Aldo and not being able to get a finish, even though Aldo was like literally, I know in his last fight he looked pretty good still, but Mario Batista, like, if he wants to be a top guy, he's got to at least look like he could get a finish. You know, I don't think Aldo's going to probably get finished too often. Obviously, he's not been finished that many times in his career. The obvious ones are obviously there, what I'm not going to name. because it's just lazy. We've all seen the KOs, 13 seconds. But when it goes longer than 13 seconds and he ain't cold and he ain't like a bit like getting caught just by surprise, he's very durable, Jose Aldo. But the point is that Batista wasn't even looking to cause damage and get a finish. If that's Patchy Mix in there, that exact same fight, I've got Patchy in there, he's going for a finish. And he'll come close maybe as well, because he is really dangerous in all aspects, including on the ground and on the feet. I really think that Patchy's going to win this. I'm actually going to go for a finish, which I think every UFC fan will be absolutely ecstatic if it comes and goes that way. I think it's going to be a really entertaining fight, believe it or not, even though Mario Batista's involved, because I think Batista is underrated as far as entertainment value. He had a fight a while ago where against the old Italian guys, who I'm going to refer to him as, or he might be Argentinian, on the Apex. It was a few years ago, and he was throwing suplexes, you know, like Kurt Angle style, German suplexes. He was landing shots, he was going for finishes. So I thought with him, you know, in that fight looking so good against another old man, he'd have gone for the same thing and tried to go for the kill, and that he didn't in the Aldo fight. This fight's going to be different because he got something to prove, because the fans have turned against him, and UFC fighters are very sensitive and they're going to want to prove you wrong. So I actually see this being a surprise best fight of the night contender on this card. I think it's going to be a Patchy Mix second round submission. I think it's going to come when they're both probably in a kind of 50-50 scramble, and I can see Patchy getting the hooks in as Batista tries to get his way up, because Batista's probably going to go for the classic both hands down thing, because I can just see the instinct of that coming in for him, because he's a bit of a pussy, forgetting that the rule change is there, and then Patchy's just going to be able to get a knee in there. I can see him wrapping the rear naked up from the back. I really can see that transition being the finishing sequence. So I'm going with Patchy Mix, second round rear naked choke finish, which a lot of people are picking him on the feet, but I just think his aggressive grappling will be Mario's defensive grappling here. Moving on. Fight number 3 on the main card. Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. This fight, I can't believe it's like going after those two fights, because I think either of those two fights would have been better in this featured slot. Obviously, that shows that they're still hyping Pyfer to put him as the featured fight over them two fights. I think Pyfer's probably going to get beat again. I'll be honest, we have seen a lot of people picking Pyfer because of how bad Gastelum looked last time out. But people forget, man. Gastelum has got a chin and a half. And he also, not too long ago, had an absolute war with the absolute legend Chris Saltyman Curtis, friends with Joe Pyfer, funny enough. So that's going to be in the back of Pyfer's mind, and we know that he's salty, so he's going to be like, you beat my fellow Saltman Curtis, and he's going to really want to go out and prove something and get revenge, and he's a very bitter guy, Pyfer. I can see Gastelum just being too tough, man. I can see it being similar to the Hermansson fight, except obviously this one's only 3 rounds, unlike that fight being 5, but Pyfer was literally tiring at the end of the second in that fight, and Gastelum's also got a really good output. You know, like, I know that the Darren Till fight years back might say different, and his last performance, but in general, we've seen the Adesanya fight, when he fought Michael Bisping, you know, he just overwhelmed him with strikes and then finished him. I feel like, I know that was going back a while, both of those fights, but Gastelum against Curtis, that wasn't too long ago, people. That's an underrated fight, man. Look how well Curtis did against Kopylov early this year. That's one of my fights of the year. Check the short on my channel. I was literally creaming myself. I think this is going to be a really, really good fight. And I really do think that Pyfer's going to get beat here. I've seen a lot of people picking Pyfer, but I just think if he don't get that knockout like the last time out early, he's just going to get overwhelmed by these vets. Like, Hermansson's older than Gastelum. Gastelum's also, you know, tougher than Hermansson. We've seen Hermansson get finished. Gastelum's never been finished. So I'm going with Gastelum in this fight. I think he's going to expose Pyfer, and I think it's going to be a really good performance from him. And I think it's going to be one that probably keeps his career alive, because people are really down on Gastelum after his last performance. So I'm going Gastelum by decision in a fight what starts off hot, and then just Pyfer gets tired and it ekes out to a really boring, comfortable Gastelum decision with pitter-patter shots. Moving on to the co-main event. Sorry. Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena, not Jessica Pena. I think it's going to be a really good performance from Juliana Pena. I think she's probably one of the better women's fighters. She's really got a lot of upper body strength to get the takedowns, and I think she's also fighting somebody who's quite muscular up top but got no legs. Weirdly, like built like Mr. Incredible is Kayla Harrison. People don't talk about that a lot, and I think she's going to really struggle with those single legs that Juliana tends to like to get on her opponents. I feel like it's a different wrestling style. It's more that Dagestani style, and I feel like that's going to catch Kayla by surprise. And we've seen her get beat before by lesser competition with good wrestling like Pachana, whatever she's called, Pacheco. So I think she's going to really struggle in this fight because she's fighting someone with a similar style and also likes the clinch a lot more than her last opponent in the girl I just mentioned, Jessica, lesbian, can't remember her name, the one that got beat in the last fight, who literally just sat on Mara Buena Silva. So that's going to be a really hard one for me to pick, but I do think I'd have to just give the edge to Juliana Pena just because of the fact that she's got the right kind of wrestling fence / just strikes and then throws the level change, and that's something that Kayla's not had to face yet. She's got amazing offensive grappling, but I feel like she's not been tested with a takedown defence, and I feel like her build is literally designed for power early and then to get slowly worn out and then get beaten if she's not having it all her own way. In her last fight, she was absolutely dominant. I feel like this fight, she isn't going to be able to do that because she's fighting someone who's also got a lot of strength and that kind of low centre of gravity, being stocky and more wide, and that kind of build that can keep balance in those kind of 50-50 positions where they're trying to get a takedown and they're trying to like wrestle against the fence and fence grab kind of situations, basically. You know, when people cheat, because you're allowed to do that apparently in the UFC. Well, I feel like that's going to be an advantage for Juliana Pena because she's really good at changing levels quick and also getting the takedowns and keeping balance when she's getting wrapped around against the fence. So I think a lot of this fight will take place against the fence. If Kayla's not on top causing damage, if she's the nail, she's not going to be the same fighter. I think Juliana Pena is actually going to get a finish in this fight. Mark my words, it's going to be a third round sub. I think she's going to get probably a head and arm triangle would be my best prediction because I can just see her working her way up from that kind of bottom and then maybe using the takedown with a body lock, and I can see her just getting to the front side and then getting a strong position in side mount and then getting a submission from there. Side control and then a finish by head and arm choke, and I think it's going to come in the third. Moving on to the main event finally, Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. This fight, I think, is probably one of the least hyped fights so far this year as a main event. No one wants to see this rematch. O'Malley, he let me down in the first fight. I thought he had a chance of winning, but he just didn't, clearly. He just won at the races in that fight. I think he is going to be no different. No spoilers, no big build. I'm just going to tell it how it is. He's going to get beat again. I think Merab's just that unbelievably awkward style. The worst style he could have. It's a bit like if Islam was still at lightweight, I'd think Paddy Pimblett has no chance of being champ. But the fact that he's gone now, I actually think Paddy beats Ilya because of his size and his style. And I actually think he probably beats Charles because he's just a younger version of Charles with more toughness, in my opinion. This is O'Malley's like problem. He's not got that same novelty of having a good champion, like a good division where he can get away back to the belt. Aljo was probably the best chance in hindsight because people forgot for some reason that Aljo is literally the most chinny guy ever. Merab has got more volume wrestling and he's also got a good chin. I think he's going to really struggle, O'Malley, to get the balance when he's getting the switched up levels, and he's also getting punched in the body a lot because O'Malley's got the body frame of like a twig. So he's going to lose a lot of his kind of he's going to lose a lot of his advantages because O'Malley's used to being able to kind of throw these quick shots. But if you're getting countered to the body, you're going to end up using some of that speed and you're going to end up being a lot more lethargic. And O'Malley needs that fast twitch to get the finishes. And if you noticed in that fight, he was getting hit to the body and it was making him want to kind of make his shots a little bit more tucked. Whereas O'Malley usually likes to throw his shots from like a really loose style. And that's why he gets his speed. He ain't going to be able to do that here because he's going to be getting winded. He's going to be getting taken down, which causes you to lose your energy and you lose your cardio. And the cardio is what makes O'Malley probably one of the, in my opinion, worst champions we've had in recent history, because he's literally the only champion we've had who only can win a fight if every single round is going his way, like in the Cheetah fight. Look at him in the Merab fight, literally was blowing out his arse. Look at him in the Yang fight, literally was lucky to get that decision. Look at him in the DQ fight, what's he called? The guy who Cheetah beat recently. In that fight where he got a no contest and Henry Cejudo started to like meme his way into the backstage area, that fight, he looked terrible. He would have actually lost if that had gone to scorecards before the no contest. And I just think he's not good enough in this division at the moment to be a player anymore in the top. He just isn't. Corey Sandhagen's got more of an all-round game. I feel like if you're going to be a one-trick pony, you should have gone back to 10 years ago when you could do that. You have to be all-round good everywhere, and O'Malley is literally... The best moment he's had in grappling was when he got Piotr Yan back in the fight they had 4 years ago when he got his back and he took him down. That was the best performance O'Malley ever had in grappling. And I feel like he's since then looked terrible when he's been on the ground, and he's also not had that same guard where he can throw up a triangle. He seems to just give up and kind of have a tantrum. I feel like Merab's going to have no danger and nothing to think about when he's on top, and he's just going to be able to land elbows. He can land the 12 to 6s now, what I ain't seen anyone talking about in the build to this. I think Merab's going to get a finish this time. It's going to come by vicious ground and pound. And I think O'Malley probably won't fight for a year once again. And he'll probably never make to a title shot again. Thanks for watching, guys. That's my prediction for the card. Really looking forward to it. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching on MMA.